Good morning, everyone. We're going to call to order. Good morning. Yes, we have new. You actually have real nameplates. I want you to. Good morning. This is the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. This is Thursday, February 12th, 2015. This is our 11 o'clock, and we'll be doing our 1 o'clock dockets today. The first item is a transfer. It's David Hitchner, trade name is Chasers, trade name pending at 2501 Fleet Street. That's the Class BD7 transfer. I received a request from both the applicant and the Community Association asking to postpone this matter. I'd like for the board to either approve or disapprove this.
What was the reason?
Both groups are still in the process of meeting, and they would like to be able to come back on another date when they have a commitment together. Thank you. The next item is James Schaefer and Albert Schaefer, Schaefer Investments Group, LLC, Agracy Cafe, that's at 5-7 North Calvert Street. This is an application for a new Class B, beer, wine, and liquor, under the provisions of 2B, 201D, 7, requiring $700,000 in capital investment in restaurants and fixtures, and a seating capacity not to exceed 75 people, not 150 as stated on here, and also a request for outdoor seating. Thank you. This is your, I have a copy in the file.
We haven't had this before, have we?
Yes, you have, sir. This is this.
One you were here before?
Yes, sir. You have heard this one before.
All right, counsel, enter your appearance, please.
Good morning, Caroline Hecker and Justin Williams, Rosenberg, Martin Greenberg, on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined by James Schaefer and Jake Schaefer, Schaefer Investments LLC.
Yeah, she sent me in this
All
morning.
right, are you going to have testimony?
Yes, she's going to be making testimony on this.
I'd be glad to hear from you.
Thank you. As you'll recall, we were here on January 22nd for the beginning of this hearing where, just to refresh your recollection, this is an application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor license in a first floor space in the Muncie building located at 5 North Calvert Street. It's the space formerly occupied by Roly Poly. And it's a license for which the requirement is $700,000 in capital investment, 75 seats, and a minimum average daily receipts from the sale of food of 65%.
I think the only issue, why don't you address that issue?
Is the capital investment.
Exactly.
Exactly. So at our last hearing, we presented an appraisal that showed a $797,000 capital investment in the property. That figure included $377,000 of the value of the premises as appraised by the appraiser at, I think it was $130 a square foot. And so at the time there were two questions raised. One, should the cost of the building be included as part of the capital investment? And two, does the capital investment need to be new to the applicant, and does it need to be made prior to the issuance of the license? I prepared a memorandum which we submitted late yesterday. I don't expect that anyone has read it yet. So what I'd like to do today is present our argument and request that the board take the matter under advisement to review the memorandum. And also, if the board thinks it's appropriate, it also may be beneficial for the board to seek the advice of the Attorney General on this matter, since this is an issue that's likely to repeat itself.
Let me stop you right there. We're not going to seek the advice of the Attorney General.
Okay. That's fine.
Deal with it here.
Okay. Well, and that's why I've prepared a legal memorandum for your review. But because I know we submitted it late yesterday, I don't expect that anyone has reviewed it yet. And you just got it this morning.
I just got it.
So,
Just received.
But go ahead, address your issues. You remember last time the commissioner brought it up. I agree with her, and yeah, we all were in agreement. We all agreed. And so why don't you nail down exactly what your position is, and then we can listen to you, and perhaps there may be questions.
Okay, absolutely. So as you know, in Article 2B, there's a general prohibition on the issuance of new licenses in certain districts. But then there's a fairly broad exception for Class B licenses within, again, certain alcoholic beverages districts. And the general rule for the exception is that you need $200,000 in capital investment, not including the cost of land or buildings, and 75 seats. Within the 46th legislative district, there's a slightly heightened capital investment requirement of $500,000, also not including the cost of land and buildings, and then a seating capacity of 75 to 150 persons. Within the 46th district, there are then 5 other types of licenses that are available within specific wards and precincts in the 46th district, which have an even greater capital investment requirement. 4 of those require a $700,000 capital investment, and one of them, which was only available until July 1st, 2005, required $1 million in capital investment. In all 5 of those, where the statute says a minimum capital investment of $700,000, it does not say not including the cost of land and buildings the same way it does for the $200,000 license and the $500,000 license. And I think it's clear that the legislature, in creating these special districts within the 46th legislative district, intended not to exclude the cost of land and buildings from those types of licenses that have the heightened capital investment requirement. The legislature clearly knew how to do it if it wanted to exclude the cost of land or buildings. It did that for the $200,000 license. It did it for the $500,000 license. But for
Stanley, I hate to, excuse me for interrupting you.
No.
But I don't know where I heard it, but you were going to bring down Senator George Della?
We spoke to Senator Della. Unfortunately, he wasn't available to join us this morning.
Mm-hmm. I know he was the author of it.
He was the author of the legislation. And the legislative history of this provision, it was created in 2005, and it replaced the previous law, which had required $500,000, not including the cost of land or buildings. They replaced that with $700,000, full stop, no reference to cost of land or buildings. And since that time, the legislature has gone.
Was that his district? 46?
It was, yes. The 46 was his district. Since that time,
That would be south, South Bowl.
it's generally around the waterfront. It goes around to Canton. It comes up. We're in 46. Yes, all the way around the waterfront.
Gerrymandered, huh? Little,
Say that again.
nothing.
I've been told 1,600 licenses around that area.
I couldn't say if that's true or not, but I mean, I think your point is that there are certainly a lot of licenses in that area, and he was trying to limit or curtail the availability of those licenses.
So you're saying that his bill made an exception for licenses of $700,000,
That's correct.
and it did not. It did allow land and construction building.
Yes. And it only within certain areas in the 46th district. It's in the 4th Ward, Precinct 1. It's in Ward 26, Precinct 8. It's in Ward 3, Precinct 3. It's within the Silo Point Planned Unit Development. It's in Ward 24, Precinct 5, which is the McHenry Road development. And then the one for Harbor East was available until July 1st, 2005. That was the $1 million. Ours is Ward 4, Precinct 1.
So you fit into that.
We fit into that, and it's under 9204.1 F2 Romanet 2. We're in Ward 4 Precinct 1. The restaurant is required to have a minimum capital investment of $700,000.
Now, is that going to be the basis of your argument today?
That is half of our argument, yes, is that the legislature knows how to exclude the cost of buildings and land if it so chooses, and the legislature is presumed to know to mean what it says when it.
Let me just ask. Does that mean that if we disagreed with that you would not have the sufficient capitalization, or you would still have it by other reasons?
We think we also have it by other reasons, even if you don't agree with us about the $377,000, which sort of ties into the next question, which is, when does the capital investment need to be made? Does it need to be made prior to the issuance of the liquor license? Does it need to be brand new capital investment? And
what would we can't use it as evidence, but I'm curious, what would George Della have said if he had come?
Well, when we spoke to him on the phone, I can tell you what he said to us when we spoke to him on the phone, and he told us that his recollection was that the way this has always been interpreted is to include the cost of land or buildings. And the reason is because with that level of a heightened capital investment, you really need to include the cost of land or buildings to get there, particularly with the $1 million license. I mean, can you imagine trying to find $1 million worth of interior improvements without including the cost of the buildings and the land? It really does make sense for the heightened requirements, not for the $200,000 license or the $500,000 license, but for the $700,000 license and the $1 million license. It was intended to include, to capture the building as well. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us today, but that was always his recollection of how this has historically been interpreted. And I mean, it's, to whatever extent it's relevant, he unfortunately wasn't able to join us today, but that's what we know from what he said to us. But in terms of our other capital investment in this site, as indicated in the documents we submitted to the board as part of the application, the applicant is spending just over $4,000 a month in rent over a 10-year term. It comes out to be $489,360 over the course of a 10-year lease. Now, there's no provision in Article 2B anywhere that says that capital investment needs to be new or that it needs to be made prior to the issuance of the liquor license. It just says a capital investment, and a capital investment in an ordinary dictionary, Webster's definition, is the amount of money that is invested or required to be invested in an enterprise or undertaking. And in this case, we have $489,000 that we are investing over the course of the lease as part of this restaurant project. In addition, although the term capital investment isn't defined as it relates to Baltimore City.
Let me ask you on that. When you pay rent, you usually pay it when it's due. Are you assuming then that the rent will be paid over 10 years, but you have not actually paid it?
That's correct. We will pay. But if I can liken this to the other two requirements for the license, the 75 seats and the average daily receipts of 65% of the average 65% from the sale of food over alcohol from the restaurant. Both of those requirements are also continuing requirements over the course of the license. Today there aren't 75 seats there because the restaurant's not open yet. There will be 75 seats when we install the tables and chairs. And likewise,
That's got nothing to do with capital investment.
No, but likewise it's a condition that continues over the course of the license, and the same with the 65% from the receipt of daily foods.
You're using the rent for 10 years as a capital investment. You don't use the food that you serve, as a part of your restaurant activities.
That's absolutely.
As a part of the capital
No,
investment.
of course not.
So
But
why bring it up?
In my view, it's something that is like the capital investment requirement in that it continues over the term of the existence of the license. They have to maintain these other requirements as well. But the term capital investment, it's not defined as it relates to Baltimore City in Article 2B, but it is defined as it relates to Baltimore County and Anne Arundel County. And both of those counties explicitly call out rental payments as being part of capital investment. And so I think when you look at Article 2B as a whole, you need to look at how it's interpreted across the board. And I understand that this is Baltimore City and not Baltimore County or Anne Arundel County, but the term is defined as it relates to both of those counties, and it does specifically include rental payments.
Of course, every single county in the state of Maryland has its own liquor laws.
Absolutely. I absolutely understand that.
It has
But
nothing to do with Baltimore City.
I understand.
I may say that.
No, I understand.
May I add that of all 50 states, and I love to say this because I get tired of these arguments about constitutional rights, privilege, you know what I'm going to say. And every state of the United States and every county in every state has its own liquor laws. And I'm familiar with some states, and they're all different. So Baltimore City is Baltimore City.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It's merely by way of comparison.
I'm not against what you're saying. I'm just commenting on it so we can understand what your position is.
Very well.
Go ahead.
Well, my point in any event is that the amount of money that we're spending as part of our rental payments over the course of the lease, the $489,000, on top of the $420,000 that we're actually spending in actual dollars up front to renovate the property, takes us well in excess of the $700,000 requirement. And it's...
Well, why don't you go down the list with us? Give us a price, how you get to the $700,000.
Absolutely. So the exhibit that is attached to the memorandum includes a copy of the...
What page?
It's where the tab is. The tab.
Top? Oh, top. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So there's a replacement of a hood system that's for part of the kitchen equipment. It's $120,000 itself. There's $32,000.
$377, is that rent, or what's that?
$377 was the value of the building on a per square foot basis, which we believe should be included because the provision under which we're seeking this license does not exclude the cost of land or buildings.
There's a difference between cost and value.
Yes, I mean there is, but this is a value and a cost that someone has put into this building.
Not these guys.
But there's no requirement in Article 2B that the applicant make the capital investment. It just says a capital investment.
Well, who else makes a capital investment?
In this case, it's the
just
owner of the building.
illogical. It's just a simple, just a plain, for me, it's just the plain meaning of the rule. And is, if there's a capital investment, it's a capital investment by the licensee, or on behalf of the licensee, or, like from 10 years, like, and the building was built in
One
what?
person at a time.
Building
Let her
was built
finish.
in what, 1877, or when was the building built? Okay, come on, no.
Well, the building was built in 1877 or whenever it was,
Yeah.
but the current owner of the building purchased it much more recently.
If these guys were purchasing the building, I would have no argument whatsoever. And
there-
they're not purchasing, because they have, I should let you finish. Investment is investment is investment. Value is value is value. Cost is cost is cost. There's very simple terms. We don't have to go through mental gymnastics to understand what they are. And even in your argument, you're interspersing them. But the law says capital investment, not capital value.
If I can respond to what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that if they were buying the building, you would think that that was,
It would be an easier task. They're not buying the building, and in Baltimore, we have said that the cost of the building is not included. So, but it would be but we're not even there. We're nowhere near that,
if, leaving that aside, that if they were buying the building.
which they're not.
Which they're not. I'm with you. They're not buying the building, they're renting the building. But if they're renting the
And they're
building.
renting a portion.
They're renting a portion of the building.
Right.
They're
And I have a
renting-
question on that when you're done.
Okay, they're renting about 2,900 square feet of the building. And for that 2,900 square feet of the building, they're paying $489,000 over the term of their lease. That, if they were buying the building, they wouldn't be paying the whole
So-
thing up front. They'd be a loan. They'd be paying for that over the term of
But they would be.
the lease.
It's a whole different animal, purchasing versus renting. And what we have done, at least in the time I've been on the board, is you won't get the license until, in fact, there are 75 seats. And so if we applied that rule, you don't get the license until you actually meet the requirements. We would need to wait 10 years for you all to get your license after you've actually paid the rent.
But you issued the license before we've met the 65% average daily receipts.
Which is different. You can lose your license if you don't meet the 65% daily receipts, which is it's a different requirement. It's a different breed of requirement, in fact. But let me stop. Well, while I'm talking, what, are they renting, are they going to be in the Susie Soba space as well?
The Susie Soba space and the Roly Poly space are the same. Roly Poly was where
They're not the
Bank is now.
same. They're not the same. They're different spaces. They're divided by a hallway, but an
So-
interior hallway. So my question is, and you might need to just answer until they get sworn, will they be occupying the Susie Soba space, the former Susie Soba space? Could
do I
you,
get
all right,
sworn in?
Swear the witnesses.
I raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So Roly Poly used
Identify
to be.
yourself, please.
Oh, James Schaefer. Sorry. Roly Poly used to be where M&T Bank is, and Susie Soba was on the right, which is the space that we're taking. M&T Bank moved into Roly Poly space, and Roly Poly replaced Susie Soba, and then we're replacing Roly Poly.
so you're not, so there's a bank there now,
Yes.
and so you're across the hall?
Yes.
Okay.
Across the hall from.
You're
From-
across the hall from the
from
bank.
M&T Bank,
From
yes.
what is now the bank. So you're not, all right, so, okay, so what I knew as Roly Poly closed. M&T Bank came into that space. So it's a misnomer, it's a misstatement to say that you're in the former Roly Poly space, because you're not. Across the hall from Roly Poly was Susie's Soba, which was a noodles store. And it's a much smaller space. But that's what he's saying. Now, if he's wrong, y'all need to talk and get it clarified, because you're across the hall. When you come in the front door, you're on Calvert Street, the courthouse is to your left, the post office is to your left, you're on Calvert, you're coming in. To the left was Roly Poly. To the right was Susie Soba.
I can assure you that Roly Poly replaced Susie Soba because we removed Roly Poly signs from the window on the right-hand side
That,
when you walk in the building. I promise you.
I thought Roly Poly had that whole space.
Roly Poly had moved over to, and I am sure on the size of our space because we've had it looked at by our architects as well as the appraisers, and they've come back with the same numbers. Not to mention the fact that that's what our lease says. So if that space is much smaller, we're paying way more than we should be.
The last, I've kind of been really full in years, but I recall it being on both sides of the hallway. So maybe it shifted over time, but
Yeah, okay, all right. Anyway, back to you.
Well, I guess what we were doing was going through.
Oh, right, the
value
valuation.
and and we have a $377,000 value for the square footage, which I'm hearing is not something that the board is likely to consider, notwithstanding the fact that the statute does provide for the cost of buildings and land to be included. On top of that, we have 120,000.
Back up on that. What did you say on that?
I said
Again?
that, what I'm sort of hearing.
What George Della said, or what are you quoting now?
Statute,
Go over there myself.
The statute.
and see, this is-
which just provides for $700,000 and does not exclude the cost of buildings.
Yes, that's the interpretation you think.
That's the plain language.
Yeah.
There's a hood system, which we're spending $120,000 on. There's a series of architectural adornments that are valued at $32,000, $12,000, $18,000, $8,000, $22,000. There's other assorted decor that's approximately $3,200, $93,000 in kitchen equipment, $22,000 in dining room furniture, $62,500 in upgrades to the bathrooms, floors, additional lighting, miscellaneous dining and office expenses to the tune of $26,750, plus the value of the rent that we're paying over time, which is about $489,000, which is not incorporated into this.
So what does the total come to?
The total comes to about it's $797,000. If you took away the $377,000 value for the square footage, it would be $420,000.
Okay. So what is your position?
Our position is that we more than exceed the $700,000 capital investment requirement. Both ways, if you look at it, including the cost of the land and buildings, the $377,000 that's included in the appraisal, or alternatively, looking at it with the rental value over the period of the lease, the $489,000. In both cases, we exceed the $700,000 minimum, and we believe the license should be issued. And I think the public policy of the state of Maryland also supports the issuance of the license. If there are two alternate constructions of a statute, the one that will produce the most beneficial results is the one that should be interpreted by the court. The legislative intent was to make sure that legitimate restaurants come in. This is clearly a legitimate restaurant. And Tom Yeager is here from the Downtown Partnership. This is supported by the residents of the local community. There's no one here in opposition to it to indicate that there's any contrary public interest in issuing the license, and we believe the license should be approved.
And why did you say we need a postponement? I wasn't sure about that.
I was going to request that not that it be postponed per se,
Held.
held so that you could review the memorandum.
Mm-hmm. I see. Mm-hmm. Questions? Any?
Just for clarity, are you saying that the bank is in that space now, or that the bank is?
If you walk in the hallway, the left is the bank. The right is our space, which was Roly Poly after it was Susie Soba.
I need clarity on one point.
Yes.
I'm understanding that the owner of the property did some fit-out work. In other words, the client said, I'm coming in to establish a restaurant. And the client and the owner agreed that the owner would do certain things in order for them to come into this location. And I think I heard someone say something about the owner did some work and doing some foundation work for the restaurant that was coming in. Can someone explain that, elaborate on that? Did you say that?
No, I don't think so, no.
So what work did the owner of the building do?
The owner's contributing the space.
Oh, so they didn't do any work at all?
No, the work is entirely done by our clients.
Entirely done by?
Our clients. And their contractors, obviously, not them personally.
Because I thought I heard the argument about some work that was being performed by the owner, and the debate was that if the owner is doing the work, that would be value to the property.
I think perhaps that was a hypothetical.
Or hypothetical,
But your 377,000 comes from work done by the owner of the building, which makes it possible for you to actually go in and have a restaurant there.
In essence, yes, it's the existing space.
Well, you're
Creating
using
the
the,
existing space.
all of the plumbing, electrical connections and so forth
Yes.
as a part of that
Yes.
377,000.
That's the question I just asked you, and I thought I made it clear,
Yeah, it's a good question.
and you
I
say that.
apologize if I misunderstood you.
So you're taking over a place that's been, could be used for other things other than a restaurant?
In theory, yes.
Mhm.
You could lease it to any number of commercial uses there.
But you're valuing the electrical and plumbing and so forth, floors, walls, ceilings, and everything else, the cost of the renovations made by whom?
The existing space, I couldn't speak directly to who did the work or when.
Current owner or a prior owner?
I wouldn't know.
So you're valuing it by Jonathan Melnick's auctioneer's appraisal.
Yes,
That's where it comes from.
yes.
Questions, folks? Anything else? So you want us to hold it sub curia and make a decision? Is that what you're?
Yes, I'd like you to have the opportunity to review the memorandum that we submitted yesterday. I know that you haven't had a chance to do so yet.
You're not going to produce any expertise on behalf of Senator Della?
He was not able to join us this morning, no.
Well, you didn't produce a affidavit from him or anything else?
No, it took us a while to chase him down, and we weren't able to connect with him until Tuesday of this week, so we weren't able to.
All right. Well, commissioners, what do you want to do? You want to hold it sub curia?
So I'm willing to hold it sub curia, but I'd also just like to get clarity on what the space is. Well, there's a floor plan, but it doesn't settle for me. It doesn't settle the question for me. And so, if the bank is still there, in what was the Roly Poly restaurant, and Roly Poly moved to the other side, I don't see how you get to 75 seats. But I want certainty. I want to know what we're doing. I don't want to be fumbling around in the dark, which is how I feel right now. So.
We did submit a floor plan that I believe.
I know, but based on the floor plan and just having been in this space myself so many times over so many years, I think you have a third of the space. But that's my thought. That's not evidence. I could be completely wrong. We could all be wrong. I want to know. So I'm going to ask if our chief inspector could just go to the space and make an assessment of what the space is. And so that we have certainty. And then I also would like to read the memorandum. You know, I have issues with the issues. So I would like to read it.
Mr. Jones, could you come up, please? We're going to do that. Why don't you tell Mr. Jones what you're going to do?
So what I'd like is just to have you or someone at your direction to go to the location.
Well, let's have him do it.
All right, if you would do it, I would appreciate that. At 7 North Calvert, and just determine where, what space Argosy Cafe will be occupying. I just need to have clarity as to whether there's when you come in on Calvert Street entrance, whether to the left there's a bank and to the right is the space that they're going to fill, or whether they have the entire square footage. That's the question.
All right.
And if I may add to that, and have someone from the business to be there with you who has knowledge of where the seating is going to be, floor plan in hand, so you can verify.
Yeah, we would certainly like to be there for that. And if it would be helpful, I can provide you with a copy.
Go ahead. No,
Great.
get together.
Yeah,
Sure.
that'd be great. That'd be
And,
helpful.
Anything else you wanted to
No.
do?
No,
All right.
that's it.
Then you'll hear from us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You ready? Go ahead.
Okay, the last one is a hardship extension for Thomas Matheson, OTT Corporation, trade name Quest, 3607 Fleet Street. This is a Class BD7, beer, wine, and liquor. Request for hardship extension under provision 2B 10504D.
Go ahead, sir. Enter your appearance.
Thank you. Stephen W. Fogelman, 1720 Thames Street, on behalf of the potential buyer, MCB Eagle Rock MD Holdings LLC.
Okay, the licensee here?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Good. All right, we're glad to hear from you.
I actually represent the buyer, and he's the seller, so I'm happy to proceed. I can tell you, he's written a letter to the board, as you know, Your Honor, indicating that operations ceased.
I read the letter, yeah.
Right, on August 31st. He's in the process of selling. My client has...
Why don't you lay out the facts for us anyway, because even though the
Certainly.
licensee can do that too, if necessary, we'll swear him.
Absolutely, and Mr. Matheson will correct me if I'm wrong. Quest at 3607 Fleet Street was a bar, a BD7 license for decades at that location. I live in Canton, adjacent to the neighborhood there, Brewers Hill. The operation ceased on Labor Day weekend, August 31st, 2014. The site, my bank is right across from it, so I see it every chance I get, right? Hopefully, the property has been demolished, and they're putting up luxury townhouses in its footprint there. And Mr. Matheson would like to sell the license and move it within the 46th district. He's been in touch with my client, and we are in the process.
Let's see, we have 6 months start running on, not for the hardship, but for the 6 months starts running on August 31st, 2014. And then when you get to the end of it, you ask for a hardship. That's why you're here today.
Yes.
And what date was that? That was,
January 30th.
what date did you ask for the hardship? Were you past the 6 months?
No.
Or were you
He
inside
filed, well,
the
he
6
filed within the 6 months to be safe.
You did?
Yes.
So that's okay. So you're timely on your request for your hardship.
Yes.
All right. Anything else you want to tell us?
No, thank you very much.
All right, questions to commissioners?
What is the nature of the hardship?
Just more time to get the
So-
transfer done and the sale done.
So it's a matter of going through the mechanics,
Just-
and
right.
the paperwork, and
Right.
everything officially documented.
Correct.
And then transferred over.
And through no fault of Mr. Matheson's, the landlord decided to end the lease and to raise the building. And so that would, in my opinion, constitute a hardship.
So where do you fit into this?
I represent a putative buyer who has presented a contract, and we're trying to buy the license and move it within the 46th district.
Move it someplace else?
Yes,
Right. You can't
So
stay
you're
there.
just trying to keep the license alive?
yes, in order to, for my client to
I
purchase
mean, he's
it.
trying to keep the license
Yes.
alive so he can sell it perhaps to you if you find a location.
To your buyer, your client.
Right, and my client has a location in mind. It's just that I'm not
Yeah, we're not ready.
authorized to, discuss that at this time.
Any questions of commissioners?
No question, but just a comment, just so that we have the dates. The license ceased use August 31, 2014. We received the application for request for hardship extension on January 30, 2015. That was the 152nd day. Today, February 12, is day 164. And,
So we are asking for
So you're
180
well.
days from today.
okay.
Thank you.
180 days from today. You okay with that, Commissioner?
I am,
I'm good.
yes.
All right.
Would you be inclined to make it 180 days from the 6-month ceasing of operations, which would be February 28th, 2015?
Commissioner, what do you think of that?
I don't have an issue with that. I think that's what we should be doing
I
anyway.
think so too.
Yeah.
180 days from, give me that date, 31st of August?
Well, I'm estimating, but I'm saying August 31st, February 28th.
So the 180 days would begin running on March 1. I think this is we only have 28, 30 days, have September, da, 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 da. I think there are 28 days in
March
February,
start. From March 1,
from March 1.
Thank you.
2014.
15.
15.
2014?
15,
15.
yes.
Okay.
So the 180 days begin to run on March 1, 2015.
All right, folks, I'm ready for a decision. Vote yes.
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 All right, you have our decision.
Thank you.
I'd like to
All right. When you're ready, tell us. We'll call the next case.
That's it, isn't it?
No,
Are we gonna,
no,
I
we have
think
another.
are we gonna do the 1
Yeah,
o'clock?
We're going to take that.
We're gonna take it now.
Yeah.
Is it, can you stay?
They know. They've been moved up. Come on up, sir.
So we got the 1 o'clock cases.
Call your case.
New Q's Liquor and Tavern, Caillou Shan Kim, trading as Q's Liquor and Tavern. Tom Sackers present.
And good morning again. Stephen W. Fogelman, 1720 Thames Street, on behalf of Mia Han, the widow and personal representative of the estate of Q Chan Kim, licensee.
I swear the witnesses.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, do we have a plea or not?
Not at this time.
Okay, present your case. Oh, by the way, I've heard from the citizens of our community that love to look at this Channel 25 or whatever it is, and they have trouble hearing people who do not talk into the microphone. They say that they're missing about half of the testimony, so that when police officers or other witnesses back away from the microphone, it's lost. It's lost, folks. You don't want it lost because you might want to appeal or you might have some other reason. And I address myself as well as you on that issue. Just want to bring it up. I forgot to mention it before. I'm hearing from a number of people that say that.
Including my husband, who doesn't really want to hear my voice when I'm not in the house. He doesn't want to hear my voice when I'm in the house, but he did observe that he couldn't always hear my voice.
All right, present your case.
First witness, Detective Greenhill.
Swear the witnesses. Already been sworn. Go ahead.
Really?
Can you please state your name and duty assignment for the record?
Detective L.C.
Can we admit, just a minute, can we admit his qualifications as an expert?
I've never been involved in a liquor board hearing. We had an expert on underage sales, so I probably want to hear a little.
The answer is yes or no?
So no, just because
Okay.
I've never been.
You don't have to apologize for your decision. Your counsel, I would accept it. I'm just trying to save a little time. Go ahead, sir.
And how long have you been working for Baltimore City Police Department?
I've been working for the police department for 19 years now.
And what division are you currently assigned to?
SES Vice.
And what is it that you do in SES Vice?
In the Vice unit, we perform several jobs where consisting of bar checks and basically checking local liquor establishments throughout the city. We also perform clandestine gambling investigations as well as underage alcohol investigations utilizing Baltimore City Police Cadets.
Okay, and did you have the occasion on December 17, 2014, approximately 9:45 p.m. to conduct an underage...
Before you get to that, any cross on the expertise?
Yes, I.
Go ahead.
Courtesy of 19 years of SES Vice.
So you have questions or you don't?
No questions.
All right, I admit the Detective Greenhill is an expert in this field. You may continue your examination.
I'll object for the record. Thank you.
Pardon?
I'll object for the record as to.
Overruled.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
And did you have the occasion on December 17, 2014, approximately 9:45 p.m. to conduct an underage alcoholic investigation in an establishment known as Q's Liquors and Tavern located at 2521 East Monument Street?
Yes, I did.
And in what city and state is that location?
Baltimore City, the state of Maryland.
And if you could you please describe the circumstances of your investigation in regards to this establishment to the board?
Basically, on this evening, pulled up to the corner of the location, and at that time, I had the cadet Jones, who's to my left, in the car next to me. He was in a plainclothes capacity. Once we pulled up, I just advised him to go in and see if he could make a purchase of alcohol or beverage.
And if I may ask, what kind of vehicle were you using? Was it a marked vehicle or unmarked vehicle?
I drive an unmarked Chrysler 200.
And how were you dressed? Were you in plain clothes or were you in uniform?
Basically plain clothes, but I have a raid vest that I wear with my badge displayed. The raid vest has a police and bold white letters.
Okay, on the front or on the back?
On the front and the back.
And where was your badge prominently displayed? And if it was, where was it?
My badge is how I wear it around my neck, so it's on the outside of the vest where I can where if anyone asks to see my ID, then my badge is displayed, I gotta flip the flap and then show my ID.
Okay. Now, in your direction to the cadet, what, if any, specific directions did you give the cadet?
The only directions I told him just exit the vehicle and see if he could make a purchase.
Now, before the cadet exited the vehicle, what, if any, check of the cadet did you perform before the cadet left the vehicle?
Well, we always check before we leave the office that he doesn't have any things like extra stuff like his wallet or his own money, so that way it doesn't get confused with the department or $20 bill.
And do you ever check to see if he has alcohol in his person before you leave the station, before you conduct?
Yes.
And did you happen to perform a check of the cadet on that date, December 17, 2014, before you began your underage alcohol investigations?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you find?
He had no alcohol on him.
Okay. Now, when you directed the cadet into the establishment, what, if anything, did you give to him so he could purchase the alcohol?
I didn't give him anything prior to us doing the investigation before leaving the office. He's given the $20 bill.
Okay, and that's a marked $20 bill.
A marked $20 bill.
And based on your observation, after he exited the vehicle, what did you observe next?
The only thing I observed was him exit the vehicle and enter the establishment. Once he entered the establishment, he was out of my field of vision.
How long was he out of your field of vision?
I'd say about 5 minutes.
Okay, and after 5 minutes, what, if anything, did you observe?
He exited the establishment with a bag in his hand.
And when you say he, you indicated?
Cadet Jones.
Okay. And once he had that bag in his hand, what, if anything, did he do?
Basically just stood there, but that's our indication to indicate that he had just made a purchase.
Okay, and then what do you do in reaction to his indication that he made a purchase?
From there, myself as well as the rest of the team, we exit our vehicles and enter the establishment, and then we identify ourselves as police, of course, with the vest and the badge, and we go in and I asked Cadet Jones who was the person that made the purchase. He points out the person. And then from there, we just go in and just advise either the employee or the licensee, whoever was there that day, had just sold alcohol to an underage person.
Did you ever have the opportunity to take a look into the bag that the cadet was holding to make any observations to what he purchased?
He purchased a 375 milliliter Peach Amsterdam. Okay, and how do you know that? Basically, the Peach Amsterdam is a sealed bottle. It's a small bottle. It has an orange top with an orange labeling that identifies it as peach, New Amsterdam peach vodka.
But you had an opportunity to look into the bag and see what he had purchased?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And did you recover the marked $20 bill?
Detective Gatto recovered the marked $20 bill.
And based on your observations, was it the same $20 bill that was provided to the cadet before you went out and performed this investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And that alcoholic beverage was in the possession of Cadet Jones when he exited the establishment?
That's also correct.
Okay, I'm moving into evidence what's been marked, and I can actually just, court's indulgence, I'm now showing what's marked as exhibit number 1 to the officer. Officer, could you tell me what that is?
It's my police report.
And when you say is this a police report related to the incident that occurred on December 17, 2014, 9:45 p.m.?
That's correct.
And what, if you could be very brief, does the police report detail?
Just detail on the first page liquor license information consisting of the establishment identifying and the licensee, the LBD7 number, and of course the second repeat is the statement of probable cause.
I'm going to move into evidence marked, and I believe you have a copy of this, correct?
That's correct. And I have no objection to the police report coming in. Detective Greenhill writes a good report.
Mark it, exhibit 1.
Okay. And I believe the file's in the record, but just for this purpose. I'm now showing you what's marked as exhibit number 2. Could you please tell me what that is?
This is the photograph that I took of Cadet Jones with the purchased alcohol.
And is that a true and accurate version of what took place on the photo that you took of Cadet Jones holding the alcohol at this establishment on December 17th, 2014?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Also, no objection.
I'm moving into
Mark it,
evidence.
exhibit 2.
as Exhibit 2, the photo of
Got a
the
better
Cadet
ca-
Jones
better
with the
camera.
alcohol. I have no further questions for this witness.
Very briefly, thank you. All right, you took that photograph, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you were outside the premises, you never entered the premises, right?
That's also correct.
And at any time, did you see the licensee Q Chan Kim or speak to anyone who claimed to be the licensee?
At the time, I don't recall. I do believe it was two employees there. It was the one employee that made the purchase, and then there was another employee, I believe, either acting as the manager, possibly.
All right, thank you very much, Detective. Always good to see you.
No, always.
Did you want the photo?
Call your next witness.
Calling, sorry, indulgence.
Nope.
Commissioner.
All set.
We'll hold the questions until we get them all the evidence. Sure. Go ahead.
Calling Cadet Jones. Cadet Jones, could you please state your full name and duty assignment for the record?
Ken Jones, cadet for Baltimore City Police Department.
And Cadet Jones, if you could just briefly, what are your duties with Baltimore City Police Department?
Some administrative work.
Okay. And along with administrative work, what, if anything else, do you do?
I make alcohol purchases with the Vice unit.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this for?
About 2 months.
Okay. And did you have the opportunity on December 17, 2014, approximately 9:45 p.m., to conduct an underage alcohol investigation at Q's Liquors and Tavern located 2521 East Monument Street?
Yes.
And at that time, you're accompanied by Detective Greenhill, who's standing behind you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, what was your goal? What was your goal that evening?
To go into the establishment and buy alcohol.
And when you say the establishment, what do you mean?
Yes.
Liquors?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if you could please describe to the board after the detective told you to go purchase the alcohol, what, if anything, did you do?
I went inside of the tavern, bought alcohol, walked out, signaled the officers that I had it in my hand. We walked inside.
Now, when you went into the tavern, who did you purchase the alcohol from?
The clerk that was working there.
Now, what, if anything, did the clerk ask you when you purchased the alcohol?
He did not ask me what age I was.
Okay. What, if any, identification did the clerk ask for before you purchased the alcohol?
None.
Okay. Did you provide any identification to the clerk before you purchased the alcohol?
No.
Okay. So if you could just describe the transaction to the board.
I put the $20 bill on the counter. I asked for the Pint of Peach Amsterdam. He put it in the bag, rang me up, gave me my change, and I walked back out the store to signal the officers that I had it.
Okay. And I had what was marked as exhibit number 2 that I had just actually introduced. If I can just show it to the cadet. Now, just showing you this picture here, which was marked as exhibit number 2. Is that the alcohol that you purchased that day?
Yes, sir.
And that's you there in that picture, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how old are you?
19 years old.
When were you born?
June 15, 1995.
So you're not 21 years of age, correct?
No, sir. Yes, sir.
You weren't 21 years of age on December 17, 2014, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. No further questions, please.
Thank you very much. All right, Cadet, did you meet the licensee at all, Q Chan Kim, during this transaction? No, sir. Did you speak on the phone with anybody who said they were the licensee? Okay. And did you open the bottle and smell it?
No, sir.
All right. So you didn't smell it smelled like peach?
No, sir.
All right. So if it didn't smell like peach, you can't impeach, right?
Objection.
No, not withdrawn. Thank you very much, Cadet.
Any other evidence?
Your Honor, that will be our case.
I apologize for channeling Mr. Kadensky today, but he is not present, so I thought I would bring his bag of jokes. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I think. All right. I'll call my first witness if there are no other questions. Thank you very much. My first witness will be Kif Kim, Mr. K-I-M. Mr. Kim, please come to the microphone.
Would you prefer to have another mic?
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Yes.
All right, speak as closely and as you can. Mr. Kim, are you the brother of Kyu Chan Kim?
Yes.
Okay. Where is Mr. Kim, the licensee, today?
He's passed away.
When did he die?
He died on October 3rd, 2014.
All right. Did you procure a death certificate to assist your sister-in-law with the financial situation after his death?
Yes.
Okay. Is this a certified copy of that record from the Division of Vital Records?
Yes.
Right.
And, Your Honor, I'm just going to object to the line of questioning because I don't know if it goes to the facts of the case right now, Your Honor, in terms of what happened December 17, 2014.
I don't know where he's going, so we'll see.
All right. Thank you.
Did you say October 3rd, 2014?
Yes, sir. And
one of the reasons is that I always want the licensees here. So I suddenly heard that the licensee wasn't here, and I finally did.
right, I'd move for the admission of Exhibit 1, death certificate of the licensee.
No objection.
I have copies for all of you as well.
I don't think it's necessary.
Do you want the original in there, or do you want the
Is this
copies?
the original?
It is, but they have multiple. I guess Division of Vital Statistics will give you multiple
This is
copies,
the-
but
the
it is a certified copy.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, and Mr. Kim, do you know the person who is alleged to have sold the alcohol to the cadet?
Oh, yes. His name is Cho Huang.
All right, and Mr. Wong, did Mr. Kim, the licensee, hire Mr. Wong before his death?
No.
Okay. How did Mr. Wong become employed at the store?
Somebody introduced to him. And my manager, store manager who works in the morning, he hired him.
All right, so he was hired after Mr. Kim's death?
Yes.
Why was he hired?
Because we need an employee, because after Q's death, we need a people who can handle the business. I mean, like working.
And what date was he hired?
December, that was the second day he works, so December 13th.
All right, he was hired in December, shortly before.
Right day before we have called to the cadet.
All right, what happened to Mr. Wong after the incident in question?
He got fired.
Who fired him?
Manager.
Why was he fired?
Because he didn't concentrate, you know. He didn't do his job.
All right, Mia Han is behind you, right? All right, is she the widow of the licensee, Mr. Kim?
Yeah.
Okay, and was she appointed the personal representative of the estate of Mr. Kim on February 10th of this year?
Objection, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Was she appointed personal rep of Mr. Kim's estate on February 10th, 2015? You have to say yes or no. No. You, Mr. Kim. You're the witness right now.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, and she's the personal representative of her late husband's estate. All right, I'd move for the admission of the letters of administration, making Mia Han the.
When's all we need?
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Mark it. Defense Exhibit 2.
All right, and furthermore, I will move for the admission of Exhibit 3, which would be the license, the liquor license itself, a copy of which is in the board's file.
No objection.
Where is it?
It's in your file.
Okay. Well, the entire file, I'll admit that now.
It's in copy of the license.
The entire file is admitted as Defense Exhibit 3.
All right, thank you. Nothing further of this witness.
Ross?
Just a couple questions. Mr. Kim, how involved are you in the business, running the business?
Oh, I'm just here. I just got here after my brother's death. I was out of country at the time. So as soon as I heard, I came back to the state, helping my brothers. I attend to the funeral and helping my sister-in-law because she has 2 kids, which is 5 and 3 years old. She cannot come to the work because she cannot help anything for store. So since I'm moved back from the Korea, I just, helping my sister-in-law with my brother's business right now.
Okay, so the individual who sold the alcohol was an employee of the establishment at the time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the former license, or the licensee, passed away October 3rd, 2014, correct?
Yes.
Now, no transfer of the license was filed at the time that he passed, correct?
Yes.
Now, no transfer had been filed a month after the licensee had passed, correct?
They have a long time.
Correct, pursuant to 10506A, Your Honor.
They're within the law.
I understand that they're within the law, Your Honor. I'm just going to make an argument at the end, Your Honor.
Okay.
And now, who handles the hiring and firing of employees?
A guy who works in the morning. He's been his name is Sung Lee. He's been there for 7 years with my brother in the business. Sung Lee is helping my brothers out.
So you're no longer involved in the operations of the business?
Yeah, right now I'm involved right now. I'm helping my brother's store right now. But at that time, I was out of country. I living in Korea for like 1.5 years. And as soon as I heard my brother incident, I just came back.
But in December, were you helping manage the bar?
Yeah, I was there at the time.
So you were there on the date of the incident?
Yes.
Okay, and you were overseeing the employee that sold the alcohol?
Yes.
And you were there for your brother, because your brother no longer had passed away?
Right.
Okay, and you were authorized by your brother's wife to help run the bar?
Yes.
Okay, and your brother's wife is present today?
Yes.
And is the sole heir currently to your, Mr. Folkman, you don't have to nod, okay?
You're asking him an estate question, and you have the personal representative of the estate right here, so.
Yeah. Why?
No further questions.
Okay. Any redirect?
No.
Recross?
No.
Okay. All right, commissioners' questions? Any?
No questions.
All right, now, I find that the...
Is there another witness, more witnesses?
Yes, go ahead.
All right.
We're on the issue of not punishment.
Right, but that's, I'm hoping we haven't gotten past punishment.
We haven't gotten...
Not guilt or innocence.
We're on guilt, well, we don't use guilt or innocence, but responsibility or not.
And I'd like to be heard very briefly.
Go ahead.
Responsibility. Look, I don't want to be that guy. I understand you all have a tough, difficult job to do, and my new job is representing licensees. I have a job to do, and what I see here is legally a kind of a shaky foundation for this charge. It's clear on the license. The licensee is listed as Kyu-Chan Kim. That's the license on the wall today. That's the license in your file. That's the name. It says licensee, Kyu-Chan Kim. Now, under the doctrine of legal impossibility, it's an absolute impossibility that somehow the licensee, Kyu-Chan Kim, who died on October 3rd, could sell or furnish an alcoholic beverage to a person under the age of 21 on December 17th, 2014, 2.5 months after his death. No person could do that under those circumstances. This is a common law. There's a Latin phrase, impossibilium nulla obligatio est, and that applies here. There is no obligation to do impossible things. 401A clearly states that a licensee shall not sell, serve, or furnish an alcoholic beverage. The licensee having died 2.5 months prior, I believe that there is a defect with the case here. I can tell you, just so you know, that
The personal representative, having filed filed for the estate, has a substitute application ready to be filed immediately this morning, and that well, we have Councilman Branch here, but we'll save that for punishment. So I'd ask that you dismiss the case. Thank you.
Well, it's very clear in the law that a person who takes any type of business and succeeds to the operation and control of such a business also absorbs all of the legal responsibilities that have been in existence at the time that the event happens. The law is clear and the facts are clear here as to what has occurred. And your argument is denied, and I find full responsibility in the estate of the successors who all, under the law, will eventually succeed to the license.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let's go on to punishment.
Okay. Mr., and I'm heard first on this, right? Or, yeah, I think so. Mr. Kim was a great man. He was an incredible business neighbor in his community. He donated hundreds of turkeys every Thanksgiving and every Christmas. And since Mr. Kim has been found responsible for this violation, I feel it's fair that I can talk about Mr. Kim's legacy. Right. Mr. Kim...
Your current status is including...
Exactly. Exactly. So Mr. Kim came before the last board.
We got turkeys. Go ahead.
Right. Hundreds and hundreds of turkeys. In fact, Councilman Branch, every year up until his death, for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, Councilman Branch submitted a letter to the, I'm sorry, rookie error. So Councilman Branch submitted a letter to the prior board telling the board about his good works with the community. And Councilman Branch is here today to refresh his testimony as to Mr. Kim. Furthermore, Councilman Branch issued a honorary certificate and proclamation to Q. Kim.
Are you going to introduce these?
Yes, I'd ask that they be introduced as exhibits.
The exhibits, defense exhibits, I believe it's 4 and 5.
And Commissioner Moore, there's a certificate from the councilman. Furthermore, during the last board, the licensee received correspondence from this agency indicating that he had passed underage sales stings. Mr.
What is the point of this?
The point of that is just to show, Your Honor, in 2013, Mr. Kim did not sell to, his establishment did not sell to a cadet and received a letter of commendation from the liquor board. Just the recent history.
Is that in our file?
It is, Your Honor.
Well, it's already in the file.
Right, but I want to make that Exhibit 6. No, that's all my exhibits, I promise. Well, I better not promise. I think that's all my exhibits for
The
now.
file's in.
Okay, including Mr. Page's letter.
Whatever anybody wrote on behalf of the liquor board.
Right. Okay, so in 2010, the last board got... Sure. I'm sorry, because he has been patient. He's been here through that last case. So at this time,
Also, we let him go.
if I may yield to the councilman. You're exactly right. Thank you very much. Councilman?
Come on over, sir. Tell us what you want to tell us.
Board, thank you so much for allowing me to.
And you've been here before, and welcome back.
And thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure. And sometimes it's not so good. Well, it's always a pleasure because I'm always usually on the opposing side. You will never, and rarely, you will ever see me standing on this side, especially in a situation where you have an underage, anyone. I oppose selling alcohol or an establishment, selling anything to anyone that's underage. But in Q's case and his family's, the late Q, as you notice, 5 years ago that I stood in support of him because of the good that he's done to the community and the surrounding community around it. He's been very generous. He's been a very willing, Q was a part of the community, not only with the people that live in that neighborhood, but by him giving generously every year. I had to come out today to support the family, not the cause, but the good that the family done. I also reached out to the community associations. Whenever I come in front of you, always, Judge, if you don't mind, I always reach out to the community associations to make them aware that there's a violation that's taking place in their community. Now, we've had a lot of bad businesses, liquor establishments in the neighborhood that's not worthy of me even coming here and standing before them. But in Q's case, I consider him and his family like family to the community. We could always depend on him to reach out and give back to the community. And I'm only asked that a business that does such good for the community that you're not closed, you're not closing. And please allow them to discipline whoever did it. And I think they said it well with determination of them, because we won't accept that in it. 5 years ago, that happened. Q's death have come upon us, and as of to this time, I can't think of Q breaking the rule again. He hasn't broken the rule. Whatever happened occurred after his death.
Well, let's see if the commissioners have any questions. Questions, commissioners?
None.
Just a question for the councilman. It's good to see you. Nice that you're here. Just a question, just in terms of jurisdiction. Are you familiar with? I've always known him as Major Russell, but now he's, I think, Lieutenant Colonel Russell. Yes. Was he working in this area? Was he working in this district? Do you know?
Lieutenant Colonel, well, he's citywide.
He's citywide now.
He used to be the Eastern District Major.
Right.
I'm assuming at the time that the first violation had taken place.
So he would have been patrolling in this area. And this is, maybe this is more of a statement, but I happened to be at a sort of a public hearing last week about all sorts of problems in communities. And he was not on the panel, but rose up and spoke about a lot of the ills that affect communities. And we had a conversation afterwards, and he spoke specifically about a liquor establishment that had committed a small violation of sale to minors, but that was, this was some years ago, and that they had been very, very, very good to the public and to the community, and they were part of the community, not doing things to the community. And he said he was concerned that that particular, and I don't believe it was this one, that particular establishment not be closed, because by closing there was also a closing off of opportunities for and with the community. And my question now is, yeah, I don't know which one it is, but that struck me. And that rang a chord for me, that when there are establishments that come before us that are doing really good for the community, how do we balance that out? So I would like to hear you tell us a little bit about how you feel we should balance the judge has found responsibility, you're sharing that there's good. How do we balance that out from your perspective as a community person who works with community associations and your constituents?
The business I believe he was talking about was Michelle Haas. Eventually she did close down, but she closed down on her own free will. What she would do, just like what Q would do. I can count on my hand the amount of businesses in my district that actually gives back to the community, like Q and Michelle Haas. In both their cases, they would set up, during different parts of the year, sites where they would pull out pans of food and feed to the community. They would shut off the street. There would be activities going on. There would be giveaways. I don't know how you weigh the many goods over the one few. And I can imagine one bottle of alcohol could probably cause a lot of harm to a person. But when I see the families in my district, and in my district, the incomes, we're talking about the total household incomes, $10,000, $15,000 a year. A lot of them wouldn't be able to make it through without the generosity of what those communities do. So if you're asking me, I know that selling it to the underage was bad, but when I look at the few that does what they do, it magnifies over and over and over again. I mean, do I outweigh that over some hungry child who doesn't have nothing to eat at the end of the day? I don't know how do you outweigh that. Okay. I mean, thank you.
Well, I have a question. I used to represent the same district.
You certainly did.
And in my 4 years, as times have changed, I never had one complaint about any bar. So that's my question with respect to this bar. And what is your experience with other bars in this area? You have a lot of complaints or no complaints or what?
I've visited many of them that doesn't comply. I mean, I was sick. One of my staff members was here not long ago. Is it safe for me to acknowledge the business, or should I just keep it?
Do whatever you want.
Okay. Well, there's an establishment on Biddle Street and Milton Avenue, M&M's, and they've never done any good for the community. And it's with the activities that goes on around the place, and I'm going to stand when they hold. Judge, I know that we came in front of you, and you placed some form of suspension on them for 3 months. But because it's being heard in the court, they appealed it. They're open back up again. Once they open back up, I visited them on a Sunday morning, and they were still trying to cover up for people not being able to go in the back. There's quite a few in my district that I would love to see closed, Judge. And
so you make
is one.
A strong exception for this one.
I have a strong exception for this one.
Is the Chief Inspector here? Yes, Your Honor. Did you hear what he just said? What was the exact address of that bar?
M&M. It's on the 2500 block of East Biddle Street. I went there along with a constituent after you closed them down and they reopened. And they challenged me getting in the back.
I remember the case, and I know the name of the judge that did it too, but I can't do anything about that.
I understand.
Because it was reopened without any evidence being before that judge, and he did it based on a request of an attorney days after we closed it to reopen it, and he reopened it with respect to the law of reopenings. It's another question, and of course the statute says that the decisions of this board are presumed correct. Regardless of that, we have no power to rethink that. But we can also take into consideration the fact that it's a continuing problem, and our Chief Inspector, write that address down.
I know it well, sir. I've been there twice since the incident, since they reopened.
And that's, and I'm directing you to examine his complaint, the councilman's.
Yes, sir.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And you're excused unless our commissioners have any other questions. None.
I just want to thank you, Councilman, for always being in the right place at the right time. Knowing you over the years, you have always been a strong supporter of your community. And I met you on a citywide basis, and when you speak, I listen. Because I know if your heart wasn't with it, if the people who support you didn't believe it, you wouldn't say it.
Thank you.
So,
believe me, I commend this board. And the officers, you're doing a wonderful job. Don't stop doing what you're doing. I love what you're doing. I mean, but I do ask that, especially Mr. Hungsky, that you
thank you.
Be considerable. We don't want to lose. I don't want to see a family at the end of the day that won't have something to eat or something like that. I'm not asking you to base your opinion on that. Mm-hmm. But at come the end of the day, and they've placed so many, they placed clothes on people's back and food in people's stomach. And I know you all have a hard decision. Thank you so much.
Sir.
Have a good day.
All right, the time has now come for the decision on punishment. And in thinking about this with respect to my decision, the commissioners, of course, have their own decisions. We have two obligations. One is to enforce the law, and two is to determine the seriousness of the offense and whether there's any prior conduct. In this particular case, there is prior conduct, both in 2010, none since then. So we've had 5 years without any more up to this time, and now we have this one. All is the same, selling to minors. So therefore, in view of the councilman's decision and also the obligation to enforce the law, while I would have been in favor of a substantial closure, in this particular case, I do feel that we have to remind the estate that the proper legal operation is necessary. Therefore, my decision is closed for 1 week, starting today, and a fine of $2,000 in view of the councilman's recommendations, not more. That's my thought. Commissioners?
It's rare that I would make a recommendation different from Your Honor, but in this case, I do, and here's why. There were 2 prior violations. There was a test of this licensee in 2013, and they passed that test. Our commission wrote a letter on November 20, 2013, saying we tested you to the licensee at the time that he was alive, obviously, and you passed the test. And we don't know what would have happened had the licensee been present, the named licensee been present on the date that our inspector or the police department and cadet went back. But I think the fact that there was a test in November 2013 and that they passed, that coupled with and truly condolences on the passing and the loss of your brother and your husband, that is to me the ultimate loss. And I think we all feel those losses very, very deeply. And although don't know your brother and your husband, these are the most personal losses that we all suffer, and it takes a long time to recover. And I know that now more palpably than I ever have in my whole life. So my condolences are sincere and deep. That being said, there was a violation. My recommendation, Your Honor, would be for a 2-day closure and a fine of $500. And I understand we all feel very, very, very strongly the importance of the law and the seriousness of the violations. I'm very much persuaded by the councilman's testimony. It is very rare that we have council persons stand to our left. They are usually standing to our right with our witnesses and police department. I think that not to go religious, but really it's the dash in life that we look at, and the dash in this licensee's life includes so much good, overwhelming good. And if you've ever been hungry, and if you've ever not known where you're going to get food or where you're going to get the money to get food, having food is everything, and that is very important. So for all those reasons, I recommend a 2-day closure and a $500 fine.
Commissioner?
This case is a good example of being responsible. This establishment has been very responsible to the community. I'm not trying to cast aside the violation. The violation is serious, and I don't condone selling to underage individuals. But again, as my fellow commissioner stated, when you look at the record, since 2010, this establishment had a perfect record, especially when the owner of the establishment was operating that location. I mean, it was perfect. After his death, something happened. But when you look at all the good things that happened, speaking in terms of that dash between tooth and 210 until now. I mean, those are some great things. I mean, he was responsible. He should act as if they had a duty towards that community. And that's what we want. That's the type of message we are trying to get out to all these other establishments. And I like the idea that something happened, it's wrong, so there's some punishment here to be had. I would like to reduce down from what the judge said down to that $500 in 2 days that my fellow commissioner stated. I would even go as far as if we can get everybody here to agree to get away from that 2-day suspension, and maybe this establishment might just have a little bit more to give to the community that they're trying to serve. I mean, we can't say that, but I would just like to just put that thought out there, and they don't have to tell us what they're going to do, because, I mean, their record already speaks for them. So I would like for the 2-day suspension to go away, and maybe that $500 or maybe up to $1,000, and let the 2-day suspension go away.
We don't have a majority decision.
But I'm not finished yet, Judge. I can't just go away like that. But because we don't have a majority opinion, I'm not going to let this case rest on something else. I'm going to go with the 2 days and the $500 suggested by my fellow commissioner.
All right. Is there any chance that doesn't have to begin today? Okay. I thought I'd ask. All right.
So he's going to lose his license for 2 days, $500 fine, go down and pay the cost.
All right. Thank you. Can you pay $625 today, Mr. Kim or Ms. Han? Yes. Okay. We'll pay that today.
All right, folks,
thank you.
Very much.
Thank you all.
That completes our docket. We'll see you. We don't see you next week.
Yeah, we're not in, you
Not
might
in
want to
session
announce,
next
we're
week.
not in, or someone should announce.
We're not in session, yeah. We're not in session next
Thank
week.
you.
So our docket is finished for today?
Yep.
Oh, y'all so nice. I can go back to work and get all my work done. I can get everything done today. I'm gonna take this with me because I'm gonna read this.
Good. All right.
Good.
I thought one of you guys could jump. So I was trying
We
to
are
get you guys to
done.
change your mind. And I was hoping that we would volunteer to do something special for the community. But we can't really suggest that, can we?
No, I was following your path. You told me you were a very tough one. People who get these kind of
I don't like for them. The underage, I have a.
That's when you first really clicked, that's what I remember of you. The first time you got one, you were very strong.
But when people are responsible and they show up,
That's what we're trying to get people to do.
I'm getting tired of people coming in here and telling me.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was looking at the Okay.
I'll meet you out. I'll meet you out the parking lot. We'll go in my car and I'll bring you back. Right outside, right here, later.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you see that they got
Judge
real,
Lipley.
signs? Did you see that?
I see it again, Steve. Always pleasure. Councilman, pleasure.
Oh, no.
Oh, what's that? What's that? Something wrong with that? Look at this one here.
You're good there.
What's your name?
Doug did. You know why? Because on your email's wrong. That's what he did. I'm sorry. But we'll get